welcome to the Elephant Room. How are you? It's so nice to see you. This space, I don't know, we've never really done a recap before, but this space is for the taboo. It's for the unspoken topics. It's for the difficult conversations that impact the Black community. And we look for ways in which to try to heal each other with each other. And it's not always easy to do that. And we want to start by kind of dissecting conversations that make it sometimes challenging to do that. And so I just want to welcome you into the room, welcome you to this conversation. My name is L.A. Wade, and this is my co-host.
Mike Truth the Nomad, a.k.a. Boogie McCab, but today y'all could call me Boogie.
Okay. Good. Hey, C. Will, nice to see you in the room today. We hope you all had a good week. My week was really insightful, I would say. I have had a lot of difficult conversations this week, and I've learned so much. So I'm so grateful because I want to be able to take what I've learned and share it with you and see it real time in these conversations that we're having here online. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, likewise. I think when my week started, I asked God for understanding, and it's one of those things where you got to really be in tune. Like, be careful what you ask for, because like how it comes is basically different. So like, I was very blessed with like different opportunities to get more clarity and understanding. So like it was good in that sense.
Nice. Shannon, how about you? How was your week?
It was long, but I made it.
It was a long week.
It was a long week, sister.
Oh no. Hi, Tracy. Well, I'm sorry if long means negative long, and maybe you'll share some of that interaction, because mostly long means a lot of interaction, which is what today is about. Today's topic is about dissecting Black female interactions. Mm-hmm. And so that's, there's two women right now on the panel. Tracy, if you would like to join the room, we would be happy to hear your perspective on Black female interactions, since it looks like you are a Black female based on your picture.
That's one of my favorite people. She is absolutely a Black woman.
Okay. So in looking at the dissecting and breaking down Black female interactions, we want to specifically look at the relationship we have with ourselves, the relationship that we have with another Black woman, the relationship we have with Black men, the relationship we have with white women and white men, and even like how we navigate the systems that are institutions that we do. Like when we're at work, I work in the education system. I have a very specific interaction being a Black woman at work. When I go to my son's school and I represent being his mother, talking to the teachers and how that feels. So a lot of that will come out in what we're talking about. There's Shakira.
I'm so sorry I'm late. I'm in the elevator.
I see. We can all see.
You got a great phone reception.
Yeah, you have great cell phone reception in your elevator.
Awesome.
That's okay, no problem. I was just breaking down what we're going to be talking about. So specifically, we want to engage you in your own personal interactions as Black women, as well as any anecdotes that you can share from other women, Black women that you know. We don't want to speak for people, but we all have girlfriends that have the same validated beauty that we have, so we can share some of their stories as long as it's not TMI.
It could be.
It could be, Mike says. But so what I want to ask as a first kind of engagement point is jumping off of blind spots, because Mike and I actually broke down the conversation that Kinte and I had on our last podcast. That there were a lot of things that if I give this a visual, that's kind of how it felt. Like we were, in many parts, when I look back at it, we were actually saying the same thing, but we were missing each other. And so we want to be able to try and see if we can make a connection with the things that we're saying. So in order to do that, we have to also recognize at some point when we're having blind spots. And so Shakira, you can put us on mute until you're more settled, and then that way you can engage us.
Okay, give me 1 minute.
No worries. So my question, Shannon, is, did you ever have a blind spot that you became aware of, and how did it impact you? Can you share the insights that you had as a result of learning this?
When I was younger, I used to get the one of my Bible study leaders said I had a way with speaking the truth, and it always wasn't in love. So one day we were in Bible study, and I wasn't trying to be mean. I was just speaking the truth. And I guess it was too sharp. And I was like, okay. And from that point, I made a conscious effort to be mindful about how I speak to people and to be mindful to speak the truth in love, because I did have a sharp tongue.
Oh, so you recognize that so it wasn't really a blind spot. You just felt that you were just sharing the truth. So there was nothing.
When she recanted what I said, or when she repeated what came out of my mouth, and I was like, oh, did I say it like that? Again, it was just matter of fact for me. It's like, the truth is the truth. I mean, there is no substitute for the truth.
Right.
But there's always a way to speak the truth without killing people.
So I find it really interesting what you're saying, because I've not as much now, but I've heard that in my life too, where I just say something and I'm matter of fact. Do you feel as though men get a pass where they're able to say things matter of fact and it's just taken as matter of fact, whereas when we say it, we're angry or we're being emotional or we're being something about the way that we're sharing this information?
I would even go to the extent of saying it about men. I mean, I work in an office with all women, and I was just telling one of my staff that if this had been coming from someone who didn't look like me, there would be no problems. But because it's coming from me, there seems to be a problem.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be men. I mean, it's just the culture that we live in. We get the stereotype of being angry, got an attitude, blunt, too emotional, or the extreme, stuck up, conceited, whatever. But let it be someone else. Oh, she's spicy, or oh, she's just, asserting herself. I mean, why are there always negative connotations when we do it? But not when other people do it.
Right.
And I mean, that's hey, Shakira, welcome back.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear the question?
No, what was the question?
We were talking about a time where you have maybe had a blind spot in your interactions with people, and then somehow you have an aha moment and you recognize that blind spot and how you dealt with it. And so Shannon was just sharing that she used to say things in a particular way, and that it was for the other person received as quite sharp, and only when it was mirrored back to her did she say, ooh, I guess when I said that, it kind of was a little bit prickly. But then I also offered that sometimes men, I said black men are able, or men, and Shannon corrected me to say, or advised me that men in general may have the privilege of being able to speak without having that same label placed on them. So when they speak, they're just speaking. But when we speak, we are the angry black woman, or we are emotional, or whatnot.
Or complaining, yeah.
And you didn't have to respond, because Michael was actually going to say something in response, Shannon.
Well, yeah, actually, thank you so much for that. So first of all, my whole goal in this conversation here, as a man, I'm trying to understand, like different points where I could come into conversations and better understand women with whom I'm interacting. So you mentioned the angry black woman stereotype that goes around. I want to know, like, how that is experienced from you guys. So individually, like from your purview, what do you think might be contributing to that? Why would a person, if you were to basically like be on the outside of yourself, why would a person basically assume or presume you are being angry?
Shakira, if you want to answer first.
Sorry, go ahead, Shannon.
Oh, sorry. No, go ahead, Shannon. Sorry.
This is not gonna be the Shannon show. Well, I've never really had the stereotype as an angry Black woman because I tend to always have a smile on my face. However,
I agree.
I'm a caveat. I did recently find out that one of my coworkers called me a sociopath.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. And what color is your coworker?
None of the. I'm the only Black person at my job. So.
Yikes.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's awful.
And I was tickled by it. And then I went through a myriad of emotions at that point because I was like, whatever. But I just think it's funny that people label you something because they can't get in your circle or you don't share your business. Like, I'm in upper management, so there's no room for me to engage my staff outside of work. We don't hang out together. We don't go catch a movie or get drinks. And this person that referred to me as a sociopath is also in upper management, and she tends to fraternize with her staff. And so it kind of put me off because it was like, in the environment that we work in, our job and our role is to empower other women. And yet we're cutting down each other. So, you know, I will eventually address it because I'm also the company snitch, I guess, because I always correct behavior at work. And I don't care. It's like, if you're not doing your job, you will know about it. And that's just it. We're the only one of our kind in the county, spanning 125 miles. We can't afford to be mediocre. So if you're going to be mediocre, go up to the mainland and work at Walmart. Don't do that here.
Okay.
Wow. Shakira, what were you going to say?
It's interesting because I've been having a lot of experiences where I realize more as I'm getting older. I feel like I understand more when people are saying things that are that maybe racialized or racist. Like yesterday, I was doing grocery shopping, and like we went to Costco, and then we went to No Frills. So me and my boyfriend and like our son was there. So he was pushing the cart and I walked ahead. There were two carts blocking the way. So my boyfriend says, "Oh, excuse me." So one person moves their cart, but still one person's blocking the way. So he says, like, in a non-confrontational way, like he just says, "Excuse me," again. And like she looks at him and then she scoffs and like she's just so angry. And then I'm like, all he's asking is for you to excuse him and move out of the way. Oh, well, maybe I didn't hear. Like, she was so fast to escalation, and then it got even further than that, where she walked away talking to whoever she was with, saying, "Oh, that's how they are."
Oh, that's how they are. Okay, but to try and clarify, and I'm not trying to womansplain for Mike, but I think he's asking us why. What is it about? I mean, there's obviously things that are just racist, and that.
Yeah.
Hi, Candace.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
How are you? I don't know if you can. I don't even know if you can see me. Sorry.
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, yay! Hi, guys.
Okay. So what I wanted to clarify, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that we're expressing ourselves, and yes, there is a lot of the times a racist connotation that's placed on us. So I don't think he's saying that that's not the case. But there could also be times that we're articulating ourselves that is being received in a certain way that maybe he's trying for us to like turn ourselves around and be on the receiving end of how we speak to hear why we may get labeled the way that we get labeled. So if I'm being labeled angry, can I turn around into the eyes of or the ears of the person who I'm speaking to and hear? Kind of like how Shannon said she was speaking, and when it was said back to her, she could hear the curtness in how she was talking to the person, and thus recognize where she was maybe short with that person. So I know for me, that I try to be very assertive, and I recognize that when I'm being assertive, I hear that more so than when I'm playing like really humble and trying to be in this role of supporting the person in what they're saying. But the minute that I try to stand up for myself, so to speak, I often hear that I'm being angry or the way your tone is negative, or it's negatively impacting the relationship. And for me, I feel like I'm always talking the same. So I haven't had that aha moment, I guess. So maybe it's still a blind spot for me where I'm saying something, but I am around there's a lot of males in upper management. And so I interact with a lot of males. And so I feel like I'm imitating how they talk to me. And I can't be in a role of submission when I'm speaking to them because that's my equal. So, but I'm very quickly realizing that the terms of engagement are not the same. When I speak, it's different. And I don't know if it's much about how I present. I don't know. What do you think? Go ahead, Shakira.
No, I don't. I understand where you're coming from, and I share that. I don't really recognize, like, I'm not an aggressive person, so I speak very timidly at times with people, so I haven't experienced like being called the angry Black woman. The closest I can think of is like when someone told me that I needed to smile more.
Yeah,
it was strange.
Shannon, you're smiling already at that statement. What does that bring up for you?
I just laughed because a guy at Home Depot always says every time I come in there, he's like, "Do you do anything but smile?" That's why I just laughed. That's all.
Because you would think that the smile is actually disarming, but if I say what I mean and I happen to smile when I say it, maybe it gets heard a little bit differently. But at the end of the day, I could be seen as being aggressive because of what I'm saying. Yes, Dre, as snarky. I think it was Tracy who mentioned earlier about she's being labeled as confrontational and thus the angry Black woman. I feel like anytime I engage from a place of I need to say what I need to say, it's automatically seen as confrontational and not taken for what I'm actually talking about, which maybe the men can give us insight as to what that is. In regards to like Shakira talking about the speaking timidly, I feel like we unconsciously start to walk out the ideas of white female respectability, and we often hear about Black men saying that we are angry and that's why we're with white women because you guys are too this or too that. And so I think some of us has turned into mimicking or acting in a particular way that is non-threatening, thus doing our own shine to make somebody feel more comfortable. Dre is saying there is a rhetoric that if a man is offended when a Black woman speaks in a way that he feels is disrespectful, then that man is either weak or they can't handle a strong Black woman. See, Dre needs to be somebody's baby daddy because that's exactly the kind of man I personally would want to be with because there's an understanding. Uh-oh, Shannon, are you throwing that towel in the ring?
No, I wasn't ready for that.
It's throwing it in.
Candace, what do you think? What's been your experience as you've worked in a lot of corporations where you've interacted and seen a lot of male-female dynamics?
Well, I feel like in those dynamics, women are almost like silenced. Like they don't want to say anything because they don't want to ruffle the feathers. Do you know what I mean? They don't want to push any boundaries because they don't want to get pushback, because then later on they're going to just feel bullied in certain, like, because there's a lot of social settings that happen within the corporate world as well, right? So I feel like they just rather go home and then
what's happening?
Spending the whole night thinking about it or writing it down or journaling about it, and then they got to go back and they just have to be, prim and proper and not say anything and just get the job done. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's almost like, I don't even know how to articulate it, but I remember reading this book growing up by Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I'm sure everybody knows that book. And it's almost like they have to spend so much energy trying to get their boss or the men that are in the decision-making roles to come around and think that the decision is they're making the decision on their own, and it's not the subordinate woman making the decision. Do you know what I mean?
As C. Will says, I know a few intelligent Black women who act like ditzy white girls. I feel they do this to be seen as easy to get along with. Tracy says some women are like that in relationships. They cower down to keep peace. So not that you're the advocate of Black men, but what would be some of the understanding? How would we be able to begin to have that dialogue and interaction with ourselves about that dynamic?
I think that when it comes to communication, there's so many different layers to it in regards of so intent, the tonality, and all these other things that are involved. And in society, in white patriarchal society, there's a certain hierarchy that's placed, and so whenever you are addressing somebody in terms of dominant versus subordinate, there's a certain expectation. So men are supposed to basically in patriarchal society to be dominant. We're meant to be dominant, I guess. And women are in patriarchal society are not that I agree with it, are meant to be in a much more subordinate position. So that it conflicts with, I think, the human experience, which is we're all meant to have our own say. And so when a woman finds that there's conflict between what society has imposed, and this is, I don't want to mansplain, I believe that what's going on is that there's some resistance. And if a man feels like, hey, how come you are talking to me with such tone? You should basically know your place in society. That's where it's I think a lot of the conflict that we experience comes from. So usually with that premise, when a woman is speaking her mind, most males that are not, I would say probably not in tune complete with themselves, they may get a bit offended because you're not really supposed to speak out of turn, out of order. You're disrupting the norm. So I think that when the tone that basically we use, so when it goes from calm to high, and the reason why I say high is because maybe sometimes most women are not understood when they are they're speaking. So maybe the tonality might go up. When that occurs, most males may perceive that as a threat to patriarchy. So therefore, it's you are not being a subordinate, and I think that's what that might be.
But doesn't that lie in the perception of that person? We all I may say something to one person and I don't mean it in a way that they perceive it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
1,000%. And I think
What's that, Shannon?
I caught that. That happens all the time.
Oh,
yeah.
no, that happens all the time.
That's funny, though.
No, I'm not saying it towards Mike. I'm just saying it. You could be starting a whole World War III and you don't even know.
No, like perception and everything. That's how sometimes like Shakira mentioned, perception has a lot to do with it, because I think in communication, first the giver has their intention that they have, so they give the information out, and then the receiver on the other end of it, they have the whole life experience that they've been through. And the information goes through that filter of life experience and is received in a certain way. And so that perception or the reality that they're receiving. And then it's either, hey, oh, I understand, I highly disagree, and then, that we retaliate. And I think that when we talk about perception, I think that we don't convert from a place of empathy. So therefore, I have my own stuff that I want to say or speak, and she has her own stuff that she may want to say or speak. So if I'm not in a place of trying to bridge that gap to understand, then we're completely missing each other completely. And so I think a lot of our lapses come. But I want to bring the conversation back to you females. What do you ladies think?
Well, actually, I wanted to speak to Dre's point here of that is the foundation of communication. Effective communication knows their audience. And so if I look at that point in conjunction with your point, Mike, about, Boogie, about where that men might seem to understand where the woman's role is, then already she's disrupting that, because the rules don't apply in that effective communication tool. If we know who our audience is, if I'm speaking to a subordinate that happens to be a male, then I speak to him accordingly. But because he's male and he's my subordinate, he might then start to say, you're acting angry, you're being over emotional, you're doing this. But really, I'm speaking based on effective communication to the person that I'm speaking to. So it's all the ways in which that is not coming forward. We can't just rely on the norms of effective communication. I don't feel, as Black women, as my Black female experience, my interactions are not taken at face value. It's loaded with my race, with any other intersection that nobody likes to talk about, but they're real. That, people are rolling their eyes to intersections and things like that. And I think it's the way that it's taken up. But at the end of the day, if I'm a Black woman who may have a learning disability, who may have been through emotional trauma, who may be in a financial or socioeconomic status, my ability to interact is going to be seen, and I'm going to experience it from my intersections, whereas the effective communication that is the norm would have me not show up as an assertive Black woman who knows what she wants based on those intersections. How can I possibly be doing the right thing by showing up that way? I'm breaking the rules right away, because somebody who isn't in a good position of power and socioeconomically disenfranchised, how could I possibly articulate myself in a way that preferences what I want and be assertive in that situation? It's almost seen as not normal.
Shannon, you look like you had something to say. Was there a point that you're trying to bring up?
I was actually reading. I had something to say. I always have something to say, but I think. Go ahead.
Sorry. I see that C will pose a very good question.
I think she was coming to an awareness of what she was maybe going to say before we jump to C will.
I'm sorry about that. Yes, Shannon.
No. You were more than welcome to continue. But the only thing I was going to say is I think that I had commented off of what Dre said in the chat about effective communicators. Yeah, they do know their audience, but they know their audience in a contextual format of right relationship. I think that we have lost the art of relationship, and that's whether it's working, platonic, romantic. If you don't know how to get into right relationship with someone, getting to know them, learning how they communicate, expressive, your communication style or whatever happens in that relationship, and not imposing what you think their roles are on them, unless of course it's a working relationship and you do have what the expectations are. But even that becomes something of, this is what is the expectation. This is what you'll get from me as an employer or a supervisor, and still being able to merge those ideas and continue in a relationship that allows you to communicate and to be heard and to listen to and create that safe space. I think we've lost the art of right relationship. We do LOL and IDK people, and I'm like, why are we doing this? Why are we becoming these people? I think that's where the lost art is. So that's it.
Make up good points. There's a lot of good points there.
No, I agree with that, and also I agree 1,000% with that. But I want to kind of briefly touch on this. Siva, he made a very good question. He said, so first he said, true, some men feel threatened when you speak from their level of authority. To me, it stems from insecurity in their own power. This in regards to suppose equal in the workplace. I'm sorry about that. And then he proceeds to ask the following question: how about when you interact with other women of color at work? How are those interactions like? Candace, like how are your interaction with women of color at work? Other women of color at work.
Not a better question, but Candace is a woman of color and not necessarily identifies as a Black woman specifically. So it's more so, how is it that your interactions with Black women, how do you receive it? I guess is maybe a specific question to you in particular.
How do I receive it?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? Like in the power dynamic, or when we're team building? I actually, I've never had. Let me just see.
That's totally putting you on blast, by the way. Like,
no, that's okay. That's okay. But I want to think about it before I speak. Not just like I'm trying to sit with it for a second,
right? Because
have I been in a situation where I felt? I think I have. When it comes to, I've been in a lot of environment and like working settings where there's a lot of Indian women, and they don't see me as being Indian enough to be a part of or come to something that they're doing. And I've kind of like felt, I mean, that's the only dynamics that I can see with Indian women, but I haven't really had any where I felt like I haven't been included or we haven't been able to get the task done. Is that kind of what you're asking?
More so, do you work with Black women? Have you ever worked with Black women in the past? And how has that interaction been?
Well, I've never had any. It's more been the only interactions I've had struggling has been in the academic world.
With Black women in particular?
With Black women, yeah. In the academic world, or, but I've never had any kind of hard interactions in the corporate world.
Oh, well, please speak to interactions in the academic. 1 second, Shakira. Please speak to the academic world, because that's something that we can all learn from. And I know, and you can wave a flag that says, "I don't feel comfortable saying this."
No. I feel comfortable because this is what I mean. We have to get uncomfortable in this conversation in order to get anywhere. So this is the time to have some growth in it.
Okay. Iron out the bumps.
But in the academic world, I think that especially when I was doing my undergrad at U of T and being a part of TYP, which is a program, an access program into the university.
Oh, right before the whole
man. Man.
I'm so mad. Get vocal.
I know, like I was like in there, like waiting. Oh my god.
Wait.
Oh my god. So
okay, can I answer this question?
Okay, Shakira, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, okay, so I've had experiences like not really in the work field, but in public with other Black women. Like I'm a kind of person, I see another Black person, I want to smile at them, and like I want them to, you know, smile back or like a head nod or something. I just want us to acknowledge each other. And I understand that not everyone feels that way, but like I've gone to stores, I've gone to the bank, for example, and there was a white cashier or bank worker and a Black bank worker. And I went to the Black person because that seemed like a natural thing to do, but she gave me the most attitude for absolutely no reason. And I'm like, but I chose you. Like I wanted to, you know, have that kinship with my people, and like you're coming back at me with all this aggression for no reason. And I've had a lot of experiences like that with other Black women, and like it really bothers me because I feel like we've gone through so much. We should be more united with each other and not so like ready to attack another Black person. But then like I see other interactions, how they interact with white people, and they're all like happy. And I'm like, I don't like, what is that? Explain it to me, because I hate it.
Well, that's an interesting thing that you're saying in relation to something Dre said a little bit earlier about if a Black woman is having that experience with other Black women, then how can Black men also not feel that same threatened experience that you just had with that Black woman? And I think it speaks to the fact that we're both, Black women and Black men are both in similar positions of power, and we have individual pains, but we're both kind of occupying a similar space. And it seems as though we are lashing out on one another. But when we speak to someone like Candace, or somebody, not calling you out, Donald, but like Donald, we may be better behaved, so to speak. Which if you're as a Black person recognizing that, you may be insulted by that, to be like, yo, you just talked to me a certain way, and I see you talking like he's all perfect.
Exactly.
Or I'm talking to Todd like he's wonderful and can do no wrong, but you have aggression towards me. Like
me, exactly.
Y'all can all get these hands. Look, all of y'all, no matter what color, y'all can all get these hands. Okay? Just saying.
The elephant that I'm noticing, so like, is it truly like a myth, this Black, I guess, aggression that people speak about? Is it a myth, or is it fact, like reality? Because
I believe it's fact. I believe it's reality. I've experienced it, and I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no. Like, that was the question. Like,
yeah.
So Tracy's saying, I experience the same. I'm Black with fair skin, green eyes, and long hair. I get so much negativity from my Black sisters than other races. Yeah, I personally think there's some kind of self-hatred thing going on there, why women do that. Exactly. But they can all
see, that's what
assholes. Go ahead.
I have felt that when we're going back to, I'm back, by the way.
Yes, welcome back.
That was it Tracy that just made that comment about the green eyes and the long hair?
Yeah.
Because I just want to bring that, especially back to, because there's a lot of, like, within the Caribbean communities, obviously, there's lots of Black women that are half Indian and half Black, and that, as in the academic, that's how I felt. I get treated differently because I've got these like green eyes and this long hair. So
and you're racially ambiguous.
Yes. But I'm going to totally throw this off topic because just for a second, because I wanted to go back earlier because I wanted to say something earlier when we were talking about, I can't remember what we were talking about, but I wanted to bring up something about culture and about Canada, because I know we have a lot of people on here that are from the US.
Right.
And last night I was having a really interesting conversation about how, with somebody that has just come from Brazil and is now come to Canada. And they said to me that they had an experience because they had just gone to a club where the women were in one side of the room and the men were in the other side of the room. And I thought, well, where did that come from? And he said to me, it just feels, yeah, it's kind of like high school. But he said he feels that a lot, even within his workplace. And he works for a big bank called like a Royal Bank, which is like a big corporation. And he finds that women and men are very separated within the office setting too. So I just wanted to also pose that. He also said that he feels that Canadian women, because we started getting on this, his experiences with dating Canadian women versus dating Latin American women, that he finds that we don't speak up. We don't say anything. We just like kind of like are very quiet. We're too nervous to push the boundaries. I just wanted to bring that into the conversation because I think a culture has a lot to do with these dynamics in each country. Do you know what I mean? This power dynamics. Because I feel like this has a lot to do with power dynamics.
It has a lot to do with power dynamics, but there is a colorism aspect that we've internalized as Black people, that the closer you are to white, the better you are. And so, so there's a resentment, there's a hurt there that isn't really addressed in a way that maybe, like Mike's saying, we don't address people with empathy. Not even to say that you have an opinion of, you might be living your life based on just being a woman. And so it doesn't matter the colorism, but the construct of white supremacy and colonialism has it that we operate within that framework. And so as a woman that's lighter skinned, racially ambiguous with green eyes, you will be privileged or preferenced in a particular space if the men that you're engaging with are in an unawareness as to who they are and what they've done historically to women that don't look like you. And they almost pin it in a sense that you're better. And so can you imagine a woman who's not you having to show up and speak assertively about her worth to that person who automatically is discounting her because she doesn't look like someone like you or somebody in that colorism sphere? It's quite painful.
Yeah.
It's really painful. Shannon or Shakira, did you want to speak anything to that?
Shannon, you can go ahead.
Oh no, I was just reading and I was getting ready to ask for clarification from Donald about what he disagrees with. Go by all means, Shakira.
Oh, yeah, Donald, please tell us what you disagree with.
Yeah.
All of it?
All of what we're saying?
Oh,
so,
but in my I've had that experience, like where people just, it's a real thing. Even like with Black men, like I feel like we're so disconnected with each other. I think it's hard for men to talk to other men. It's hard for women to talk to other women. Like I can't have friends because like I don't know how to approach my own people and like be accepted. And then I'm either being judged by, they may not say it, but you'll hear it down the road. You're judged on, oh, the color of your skin, or, oh, I'm acting like I think I'm too nice because of the way that I look. Like it's a real thing. It's very real for me.
But we also don't want to get into a position of retreat here. We're just sharing our experience. And a white male has expressed that it's based on assumptions. And
okay, I didn't know that.
Well, it doesn't matter. There's elephants come on top of elephants in our room. And so we need to tease it apart a little bit and say that when women are speaking about their experiences, while you may disagree, you may want to validate what they're expressing as their experience before you just dismiss it and say that it's not
Right.
true for you, so therefore it's not true.
And that's the problem. That is the problem across the board in all
Yes.
facets.
Yeah. There's 4 women talking about it right here.
Well, I want to pose a question, and I maybe this is the elephant in the room, and maybe this is going to sound,
Go ahead with it.
I don't know, one bias, but you just said, I could definitely see that resentment for a Black woman to be resentful towards a woman with light hair and green eyes. But what can that other person do to make that person more comfortable? What can they do so that they can alleviate that? Like, I mean, that's the question.
Meaning, like, for you, like, how could you receive?
Like, how could that person, especially in that setting, if we're talking about any type of setting, and there's that resentment because of this whole beauty myth, because of this whole, I mean, we could go back to the historical beauty myth and the historical of colonization and all this stuff. I mean, now we're today. So how does that person, who does have green eyes and long hair, how are they supposed to act?
They're supposed to be themselves. There's nothing that you
exactly.
I mean,
but there's so
you
much
are who you are.
Because it's funny, because last night when I was having this whole conversation with this gentleman who was from Brazil, and I had my girlfriend over here who's from Ecuador that owns 2 gyms, and she said to me, "You know what, Candace, I have 3 children, and I'm so nervous and scared to say anything wrong, especially when I'm around people of color, around Black people, around mothers and parents and kids. I don't even know what to say. I feel like I don't want to say anything at all."
Well,
and I was like, no.
That's how I feel all the time.
Yeah. I know. So how do we move forward? How do we,
I mean,
I'm sorry.
No,
that's what I'm thinking.
It's fine. It's fine. I mean, the first thing we have to recognize is that there's nothing that we can do specifically. We have a right to show up in the world the way we're showing up in the world. Being aware that this construct and framework exists is really important. And so it helps us with empathy. It helps us address one another from a place of understanding. And recognizing that if women are having an experience because of you just being in the room, there's nothing that you can do about that. Over time, you can show them through the things that you say that you are an ally, that you are in solidarity. But that's not something that's just going to pop up in any one interaction. Over time, people will get to see how you flex. They see how you be in this world, and they can choose whether to align with that or not. And there's nothing really outside of being yourself that you can do in that situation. They interact with me because I'm a Black woman with dreadlocks, because that's how I look. And whatever assumptions, to Donald's point, that people have about that is what's going to show up in our interaction. I have a responsibility too to recognize that this construct exists and that I'm being maybe triggered by seeing you or interacting with you, or if you were Mike's type, Boogie's type, and me and Boogie had a thing, but he was giving you this kind of attention, that might hurt my feelings, because I'd be like, yo, it's because she's light skinned, it's because she's this. And that will build up a resentment. But it's for me to understand that maybe a guy who's like that in this example wouldn't be for me, because you want what's for you. You don't want a man that makes you feel like you're not good enough. So that's definitely not a man that I would want to be with, that would make me feel insecure or uncomfortable about being who I am. I would say that for sure. Tracy J says, be ourselves. People need to receive people for who they are, where they are, and not from what they perceive or what someone else has said. And then Shannon said, but we also have to be intentional about getting out of our comfort zones. Engage people who don't look like you, live like you, talk like you, and dare to get to know someone who is different from you better. So I agree with all of that. All of that makes sense to me. What's coming up for you, Boogie?
I mean, I think these are very valid points. I think that's the ultimate goal for all of us, is to be. And now in that, there's a lot of internalized discriminations that people with either different skin tones or different racial backgrounds have, suffered. And I think it's very nice. I think what we lack is the practicality, like the how to be, which is funny because I mean we're all saying just be, but then how can we be when there is a whole lot of obstructions in the way society is constructed?
Not only how can we be, but especially when we have to go into these settings. Like it's funny. Yesterday, someone said to me, because I'm going in for the third interview with this huge corporate company, and she said to me, try to look as less ethnic as possible. Because we started going on to the website, and we started we started researching the panel of executives that I'm going to meet with. And she's like, whoa, like Candace, tie your hair back, look as less ethnic as possible because you want to fit into that corporation. So when we have to get into these positions, I know that's hard to hear. And at first I was like, I wanted to really just, snap. But at the end of the day, this is kind of what people are thinking because they want to get into these spaces, and make a difference. But you almost, in order to get you have to
you gotta do white
things. Yeah.
Well, unless that place is doing affirmative action, I just want to point out that you have a huge privilege in being able to become more ethnic or less ethnic.
I don't have that luxury.
People like myself or Shannon or maybe even Shakira.
Yeah, I can't become less ethnic.
Like
this is the least ethnic I will get.
My name is a variation of whether or not I'm going to be
that's
ethnic.
The best we can do is change our name. But
I know that was a dumb thing to say, but I mean, that's the things that I'm hearing out there in the world because I think it's important to listen to your culture and listen to what people are saying, and so that I can, that you can address it.
Yeah, I mean, look at people with with really diverse names, and then they somebody has a different name from their culture, and then they become Bob or George. This throw people off. Even as a woman, abbreviating my name to LA while you know me and experience me as a woman, if nobody knows anything about me and you just see LA Wade, a lot of people have assumed that that's a man. Is corresponding with them just by virtue of my name. So I actually italicize it in my signature just to throw people off.
Yeah.
Well, I used to get hung up on when I was in high school and college. Even by family, they used to think I was a white telemarketer.
Oh yeah.
And so, I mean, Shannon is traditionally, it can be unisex and it can be multi-racist, but it was because of how I talked on the phone, and they'd be like, "Why do you have to talk so proper when you call people?" And I'm like,
"This is the way I speak. This is me."
This is who I am.
Yeah.
You don't have to like it, but don't hang up on me no more.
Right?
It's like I like the flow of the conversation. It's very positive. However, though, the biggest elephant that I'm noticing is that we're able to come into these spaces and we're very positive. However, though, our interactions sometimes, especially to bring it back to the female experience, sometimes it can be very, very. I've noticed a lot of females go through a very hard time. Like black women in interacting with other people like around them, there is this almost this block. So kind of gear a bit back to the conversation of dissecting black women's interactions. I wonder what are some individually, if you could share, what are some proper points of entry into conversations where you may not feel either attacked or offended. What are some proper points of entry into conversation, Shakira? How?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
I think I can help. Maybe we'll see if I can help. I don't know. But I think if you were wondering how to engage a Black woman in a conversation so that it doesn't bring up offensiveness or you feel like you're on the ropes.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's all in the way that you approach the woman, and your own intentions should be able to come through in the way that you're engaging her. So if something about the way you're engaging her, yes, Donald, carefully, very carefully. I don't know what that's loaded as well, but I'm going to let that one slip for now.
I want to see the comments. Can I see while I'm on
where
here?
are these comments?
So from left to right.
To your side, yeah.
Left to right? Oh, okay. Donald, Kinte, Tracy. Oh, cool.
That's so fun.
So I think it's I think it's about how you approach her, and it depends on the.
Oh, there they.
It depends. I think it depends on the seriousness or the topic that you are talking about. It's, what are we going to make for dinner? Is not a question that you should even have to, tiptoe into to approach her. Like, oh shit, I'm going to ask her what she wants for dinner. I don't know where this is going to go.
All the time.
But, and in saying that, the craziness of that is that it actually can happen even with a question like that, which it's taken to an extreme where nothing is okay, and which makes the woman feel like, why are you acting like you can't ask me anything? It's ridiculous.
I feel like we need to have conversations with each other where we're actually open and honest. That's the only way we can get to the bottom of any issue. You have to be aware of it, right? So if I'm coming across a certain way and I always do this and no one mentions it, if I'm not aware of it, it's going to be harder for me to change it.
Absolutely.
So
but it also has to be molded in safe space, Shakira.
Sorry?
I said it also has to be motive in safe space. I don't care how aware you are. If I don't know you from a can of paint and I don't know what your motive is in relationship to me, I'm not telling you nothing. Like,
of course, I understand that. I understand. I can respect that.
Hill Harper, the actor, wrote a book called The Conversation, and
it's so good.
Is it good? Mm-hmm. I haven't read it myself, but there's a quote where he says, if we don't start addressing the issues between Black men and Black women, we bear witness to the destruction of the Black family. I won't stand by and be silent, he says.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're also we're struggling to be ourselves, but then we also have to present ourselves in a certain way, which it's challenging because it's like you're fighting yourself. How do I be myself and be true and honest to myself, but I have to present myself in a certain way to be accepted by my peers or other Black people?
Oh my gosh, that is so important what you're saying, and it speaks to what W.E.B. Du Bois talks about when he talks about double consciousness. We have to be both ourselves and someone else at the same time, and we're aware of doing that. So when we try to be or act authentically, we're also aware that we're betraying ourselves by trying to show up in a conversation in a way that is less threatening, more appeasing, more timid, and
not true to yourself.
Yeah, and Boogie talks about it all the time that his goal in a lot of this is to be able to just be. It's also my goal to be able to just be, but I'm recognizing the hypocrisy in the way in which I show up and it being not taken as I'm giving it, or maybe I'm not seeing something, but I definitely feel like I present a particular way and it's being received differently than my intention. And it doesn't all have to do with something about me personally, which is when the topic is about dissecting Black female interactions with ourselves, with others, that interaction with myself has to be, okay, what is my meditation? I had a bad interaction with someone. Which parts of that is for me? Which parts of that is for them? And how can I become better to move on? And the honesty, like when we have our conversations, I think Hill Harper also talks about how we bring our advocate or somebody to speak for us in the conversation. It's not always just us. We present this idea. And I think it protects us from things like shame, which I always bring up in Dre's room when he's talking about relationships with people. There's just something about the way in which we interact with each other where we go into protecting ourselves, as Shannon just said, because she may not know you, she may not feel safe to express who we truly are in an interaction. And often I've had an experience where Black men have made me feel, or I have felt shame as a result of my interactions when I've been vulnerable. And I would hope that vulnerability would be supported by a man who says he's looking out for my best interests. Right? So I don't know. But then that man may also be going through his own double consciousness, and we don't know how to interact with that because we're both coming at it from places of pain. But in terms of like with humility and self-reflection, my other question was actually, what things have you noticed? Did you want to say something?
No.
What things have you noticed or need to be in place to have a safe and respectful conversation, using that as a launch point from what I was just talking about?
That's a good question.
Good. You want to answer?
I would say for me, say the question one more time before I answer to make sure I'm answering this right.
Okay. What things have you noticed that need to be in place in order to have a safe and respectful conversation?
It's almost like you need to have some ground rules. Like, and I will give mad shout outs to John and Betty Sanders, my aunt and uncle. When I lived in Dallas, whenever there was something, especially when there was a problem, we would always sit at the table and we would pray. And I was like, and I felt it was almost funny, but it was so sweet at the same time. Because I was like, I feel like I'm about to get a whooping. And I was an adult. But I knew that the conversation was about to be therapeutic and beneficial, and maybe some things that neither one of us liked was going to be addressed, but there was also going to be some healing to take place. But that was in context of right relationship. So, and that's why I keep going back to communication really only can be effective in right relationship. When people actually get who you are as a person, or are trying to understand who you are as a person, they want to do relationship right with you. So they're going to pay attention to how you communicate, whether it's verbally or non-verbally. They're going to pay attention to your body language and all the cues that you emit. They're going to ask those questions. They're going to be both accountable and responsible to you in relationship. So for me, regardless of color, regardless of gender, and regardless of what type of relationship it is, I need someone who is not going to hold every flaw or error against me, but will grow with me and go with me as I learn how to challenge myself past the flaw or error that they may say I presented, and give me permission to do the same.
Is there a limit to how many errors or strikes that person can have? Because I mean, when you're
human.
70 times 7, 70 times 7.
No. I mean, it's gonna be more than that. That's only 490 if you said 7 times 70. I'm sure I've already passed that number.
Every day, not just over a lifetime. Every day.
I'm just being honest. I have my own list of flaws and errors, but I just think, like, I'll give an example because she's on here. Tracy and I, and she gave her disclaimer, light skin, green eyes. And of course you see me and I am not, but we are in right relationship with one another because we have a mutual love for one wanting to see the best version of the other person. We're not in competition with each other. We love each other as sisters and friends. So whatever happens in our lives, we are able to, one, say, hey, yo, you was tripping, and point out what that looks like. And then, if you need to dissect it, pray over it, laugh over it, cuss over it, cry over it, whatever the case may be, that safe space is created because we've done relationship right with each other. You know, we're not perfect people, but we have a perfect relationship to do life together.
I love
But
that.
some people can't. I know. Me too. I love that. But I feel like some people just like are not able to do that. Like,
Right.
you know, you're just not able to do that.
And it
Or
differs.
they're afraid to be honest and like talk
And that's
about
why I
things.
said that he will. It has to be humility, Shakira, and it is not easy. That you
No.
have to be vulnerable with someone. A lot of times, and as culture extends itself, we live on such a shallow and surface level, and people don't want to go deeper. I remember when I first moved to Dallas, I joined a life group, and people said, "What do you look to get out of this?" I said, "I'm gonna be honest. I'm looking for authentic and transparent relationships. If I'm not getting those, I don't want the relationship. If I'm not adding value and substance to your life, I should not be in your life." And so that has always been my motto and my mantra. And so when I engage people, I tell them off jump, I'm not just looking to go out and kick it with you and have fun with you and, you know, smoke, drink, and have sex with you or whatever the case may be. I am looking to get to know you better as a human being. What are your goals? What are your hobbies? What are your fears? What makes you happy? What makes you sad? What makes you grow? What do you enjoy? What is your insight on life? How are you, you know, building yourself up as a person? What are you investing in? Not just money, but things, people, places. What is your goal for life? How are you blessing humanity with your spirit? And so I don't want to just get to know you as LA or Shakira or Ace. I want to know where you came from, what your family dynamics look like, what your trauma is.
That.
Because that's important. Because then when I see that your self-care practice may be not legit for the day, I can say, "Hey, what's going on?" Opposed to the standard, "You okay?" And then of course you respond, "You don't know each other." "Yeah, I'm okay," which is a lie.
Exactly. I was talking to somebody about this week.
Are you going to expand?
I was
That was
like,
good.
"Good for you."
That was good. That was really good. That was deep.
So what I wanted to ask you, Shannon, as follow-up is that do you find that that can exist within your relationships with women, Black women and other women, but does it change at all in the dynamics when dealing with Black men, white men, men that hold positions of power? Yes, go ahead.
Look, okay, well, God is good. all of Rachel, and I'm gonna just give the name so you can get the context. Rachel, Aaron, Audrey, Tracy, Kendra, Crystal, Nikki, Rochelle. Am I missing somebody?
You don't want to because then you might.
So we'll just say those. These are 20 plus year relationships, and they're all Black women. And there is an investment there. And two of them actually they're 12 years. But there is an investment there. There is an understanding. There are boundaries. And again, going back to right relationship, we have done right relationship together for a very long time. And there is something about the practice of really truly wanting to be in somebody's life, not for what they can do for you, but just because of who they are, that is important to me. I put in mad work in my relationships with Black women because I value the relationship with Black women. On the other end of that spectrum, I have the ability to engage Black men, but I can count 2 that I have 20 plus year relationships with. The rest of them, they come into my life and go out of my life like the wind. And I've heard the spectrum of things, you know, you too deep for me, or you too spiritual for me. Or
Are you for real? Someone said that to you?
Honey, listen. Look, if I was
actually shallow. How can somebody? Okay, sorry.
Listen,
that's unfair of me to say that. But
I think that goes to a greater issue of what people have been challenged to do in their life. Not that I'm trying to marry all the men that have come in my life, but I do want to get to know you past this surface that you have created with other people. And I always give the disclaimer, I'm not like anybody else you've met. Of course, that could be used against you. But the truth is, I know who I am. I've always been told I was different. I've always been told I dig a little deeper than most people. My mama says it's slightly nosy, but she appreciates that I've always been who I've been. And sometimes it makes people uncomfortable. I don't want to engage you on a shallow level because I'm not a shallow person. I don't care about your portfolio. I want to know about your heart. I want to know what's in your soul. I want to know what level of integrity and character you have. And if we can then be in relationship together, whatever that relationship is, because none of my friends are just shallow people. Like, my circle is very small, but it's also been intact for a very long time. So, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like, people say all the time, well, how can you just pack up and move? Of course, my friends are scattered all over the country now, but I could pick up my phone today and call any one of them and pick up wherever we left off.
That's beautiful.
No, that is beautiful.
Yeah, that is really lovely.
Thank you.
The Canadian Black women could learn a lot from the relationships of American Black women. It's
not
true.
all, because we do not. It is not all LA, because we were just having this conversation when we did the 24-hour broadcast. I was trying to get my quote unquote brothers, which is a group of us 4 women, Audrey, Rachel, Aaron, and myself, on the podcast so we can talk about our relationship, because people say all the time, how are y'all still friends? Now, mind you, those people are my cousins and we've known each other our whole lives, but our friend circle, they were like, you guys have expanded. I became friends with Audrey when I was 17 and I'm 19 years later. So it's like, it's just, we have made it a priority. You know, you hear that statement, people make time for what's important to them. These friendships were important to us. These friendships then became family. So family became a priority. And regardless of what you're doing in life, yeah, we all have jobs. Some of us have families. Some of us have spouses. You know, some of us have, you know, things that we're doing that are pulling us in 29 different directions, but we still make time to connect with the family. And sometimes we'll do a group chat and say, hey, when's our next conference call? Or, hey, are we getting together for so-and-so's barbecue or so-and-so's wedding or so-and-so's baby shower or whatever the case may be. You know, we don't see each other all the time, but when we see each other, we make it count. When we talk, we don't waste words. And I think that has to deal with having right relationship with people. When you have right relationship with people, man, the sky is the limit. Like, life gets real in right relationships.
For sure.
You can ugly cry and a good laugh all in the course of a conversation.
For sure. I think, Boogie, you wanted to say something?
Oh, yeah, no, I definitely agree with everything that Shannon is saying. I think the right relationship is beautiful. And talking about relationships as well and dissecting the Black women, I actually want to know, what are your thoughts, you ladies' thoughts on the future of the Black family and the role of, like, I guess, the women and like how our families look like. What is the role of women?
Shakira, it's your turn.
Okay. Okay. I'm a mother, and I feel like a lot of responsibility is placed on, like, no matter what color you are. I feel like when you have a child, a lot of the responsibility is placed on the mother. So that I feel like if there are no dads, and I think dads are so important. I don't understand when people just, or whatever, you know, I think that's crazy, because for a child to be balanced and understand and know who they are, there needs to be both parents. I don't know. I don't really know how, like, what to say the role is going forward, but we definitely we play a big role in our kids' lives. Our kids look to us to nurture them, educate them, nourish them, grow them, and make them strong people that are good people in society and just good people overall. So there's really a lot. I feel like it's a big role to be a mother in this society, because you got to teach your kids a lot. You got to teach them not to put up with people calling them names. Like someone called my son the N-word at school the other day, and I had to go and address that. And it was hurtful to me. It was hurtful to my 7-year-old son, who didn't deserve that. So yeah, I don't know what more I can say to that right now.
Thank you. I just want to acknowledge Simone in the room. I don't know how much time you have here with us, so if you want to just quickly just say who you are, what you do, and maybe answer the question that Boogie had posed.
Okay.
That would be awesome.
I wish I had more time. I'm like all over the place today, everybody, but I still wanted to stop in and say hi to everyone. And when it comes to relationships, I just want to throw this in there. I do a lot of work in mental health in the community. And one thing I see a lot of is a lot of people not dealing with their trauma and bringing their unsettled trauma. And I mean trauma from when you were children, the relationships you had with your parents, all of that coming into your relationships. And then you wonder why the relationships don't work. And I mean, when I say relationships, I mean men and women. For some women, since we're talking about sisterhood, they don't have very good relationships with their mothers for whatever reason. And you'll see that play out in the relationships they have with other women. When it comes to women and men, that's obvious, the whole daddy issue thing that can come up. But when it comes to relationships in general, I really think that a lot of us need to work on ourselves a lot more before we even attempt to co-join with anybody else. Because if you're dancing with someone else's demons and your demons don't dance very well, it's an ugly, ugly, ugly scene. So
I don't want to dance with nobody's demons.
Wait, don't go yet. Wait, just as a follow-up, how do people who have two demons that are dancing together, how can we think about the Black family when they're not even able to deal with those two things? The two demons are procreating little demons then.
And that's the problem. And that's the thing, though.
This is what's happening.
That's what's happening. And then we have our younger ones who grow up again seeing these demons dance, and these demons that come out sometimes, these younger ones are fierce. So you see it even stronger. And that's what this whole transgenerational trauma, there's a lot of work that needs to be done when it comes to a person knowing their psychology. Our Black family has broken down because of obviously a lot of the external things that have happened to us, but we have to stop playing the victim and start really taking care and taking responsibility for our own actions and start there. That's for me. For me, when it comes to relationships, I've had to take accountability for myself because I can't control that other person. Their demons are their demons. Their issues are their issues. I got to just take care of me and make sure that I'm being the best person I can be within that relationship. Not trying to be perfect. We're not perfect, but being the best me. And that means working on myself every single day. And when I'm working with that person, understanding that they do have demons and they can't be the way we want them to be all the time. Not in any, and again, when I say relationships, I'm speaking men and women, because with a lot of us, how we treat our men even too is sometimes how we treat our relationships. We're like, oh, we don't have good girlfriends. I don't have any girlfriends. Well, why don't you have girlfriends? Have you ever realized maybe it might be you? You might be the problem, but that we like to point fingers. It's them, and we can't trust them. And
come on.
I think I like it. Did you have a follow-up question for Simone before she jumps out and leaves us?
As a Black woman, like, what do you think of Black masculinity, the state of Black masculinity?
Oh, listen, so let me start on that. Men are wearing tighter pants than me, so that's the number one problem. Why are your pants so tight? Why are me and you both wearing skinny jeans? Stop this. I don't think pants. That's what I think about men and masculinity. Put on some bigger pants. Why are your pants so tight? That's my okay.
Oh my God, that's funny.
I'm sorry. It's just this whole like metro. I don't know what. And then they sag their pants too, and I'm like, how you sag
No, like
pants?
the metrosexuals, it's not the metrosexuals that are the problem. Like, I feel like some men just take it too far with the Euro. Like, they want to do like hybrid Euro. And it's like, they don't realize that I look at a man like that and I'm like,
yeah, it's not.
I can wear your jeans. I can wear your jeans.
I don't even think your jeans can fit me because my butt won't fit in them.
Many hips.
Oh my gosh, so funny. Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you so much.
No, sorry. Really quickly to finish that, because I'm going to get out of here. Our men are under attack, and us as Black women, I'm going to say this: we need to understand that they're under attack, and we have to support them in not condone their behavior, nor do we encourage their behavior. But we do have to support them knowing that they are under attack, and everything about them, their masculinity, their day-to-day struggles, them getting jobs. This is something that is just happening to our men, and we have to find a way to support them better. Some of them are just idiot, and we know that. But like, that's art. If you have an idiot in your life, that's your choice.
Okay, and the follow-up just on the reverse side, because this conversation is about women. How can they support us also?
That was my follow-up.
Because I think what we talked about last week was that they need to support us where we are, not with what they think we need.
They can only provide us balance because they're not men. They're never going to support us the way that we all the ways we need, because they're men. They don't know how to do that. That's why we have sisters, because what they can.
But can't they be taught? Can't they learn to do that?
You know what? I think they can support us again to an extent, but because they are of the male gender, they are different from us. There's certain things they're not going to be able to do for us. And this is why sisterhood is so important, because those things that they can't do, we should be able to get from our sisters. Like, I don't expect that from men. They've disappointed me often, but it's like.
I have a different opinion. Like, I have a different opinion. I feel like if a man really loves and cares about, whatever baggage you've got, he's gonna stick by you and help you figure it out.
Agreed.
And like, whatever, if I'm having an issue with something and I need you to treat me a certain way, I should be able to have a conversation with him about that. And we talk about it and dismantle it and figure out how to make it work for both of us.
How's that worked for you so far?
That's worked.
It has worked?
Yes.
Okay. You have a good man. Has
Sorry?
it never worked?
You got an anomaly, girl. It works for me too. I'm right where you are.
No, but I had to come to a place where I accepted like my own baggage and my own issues and, some things about myself that may not have necessarily been like the easiest things to deal with. Like, I had to come to a realization and address some issues before I was grown up in my mind enough to go there.
But you did some work on yourself.
Yeah, and that's why it worked.
Of course.
When men say things like, "Oh, when I breathe, it's bad," or when a woman says, "I'm just being honest," that triggers the man into like, "Oh, here we go." And when we get that, "Oh, here we go," then it becomes about something totally different than what we're probably even talking about in the disagreement or misunderstanding. But those are the things that we got to work on individually. So I'm conscious of your time, Simone. I do not want to do that to you where I keep you in the room. I know you're doing something really important, and I am very grateful for you coming in.
Thank you, Shannon. I didn't hear from you, but hi.
Oh, nice Shannon. Do you want to say something quick, Shannon?
I appreciate you, and I'm very happy that you were able to find that with somebody. I think that person came with a certain level of maturity himself anyways, to be open to learn. So that's kind of cool. But that doesn't happen very often, right? And it's cool when you do get that. I have that myself, so that's always wonderful. But a person has to be open or you're wasting your time. right? Ladies,
Mm-hmm.
thank you so much for allowing me to come in and have my
You too.
Bye,
And
Simone.
thank you to Candace for allowing you in.
Bye, Simone.
Hi, Candace. Thank you for allowing
It
me
was
in.
nice seeing you again.
Bye, Simone.
Bye, Simone. Candace, feel free to come back if you want. Shannon, did you want to speak to any of what just happened?
I mean, I think it was all valid points. I mean, I can't speak from experience of what they're speaking on or what they spoke on, because I have not had right relationship with a man. Like,
yeah. Would you say that? Would you say that there? Where would you say the breakdown is? Like that? What happens? Why are we not able? Many of us aren't able to have right relationships with men. Is there something that we can look at within ourselves to say, how are we showing up in that space that is hurting it? Or what are you seeing in how they are that's hurting it?
I think it depends. I mean, for me, and I had said this in a previous podcast, I think for a long time, and long time meaning my 20s, I was attracted to men who were like my father. That's not a good thing. And a lot of them were emotionally unavailable. And I don't want that. Like, if you can't be emotionally available with me, then we don't need to be together, because clearly I love to assess all my emotions. And to further engage someone knowing that there's something that you don't want is a detriment to the both of you. So I've chose not to be that person. And when I pay attention to somebody, like if I'm attracted to somebody, one of the first questions I ask myself, or I ask out loud, is who sent them? You know, because the same way heaven can send folks, so can hell. I need to know where you came from. I want to know why you were here. What value are you bringing to my life, or what are you trying to devalue in my life? And you should always look at your traumas. You know,
of course,
having the relationship that I have with my father is part of the reason why I interact with men the way I do. And so I ask myself a lot of questions in engaging men. But for the most part, it's because I've always been, as my mother calls it, she calls me an old lady. I've always been
like an old spirit.
Yes, pretty much. I've always been beyond my years. Like the things that people were doing at 20s, I didn't want to do that. I want to do something different. Or, you know, now that I'm at the age that I am now, based on where I live, people are like, well, why aren't you out in the community? I'm like, I don't want to hang out with them people. Like, that's not where I'm at. That's not what I want to do. And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's who they are and that's what they want to do, I'm here for that. I support you. Yeah, but I'm not doing it. And I just don't have time. I'm dating with purpose. I'm engaging people in relationship with I'm not looking for just homies. Like, I want true friendships. I want true, long-lasting relationships. So, men, woman, doesn't matter. I ain't got time for no mess. And sometimes when you tell people who you are and then you show them that can be a scary thing, because then that gives them the opportunity. And a lot of times they don't want that opportunity to show you who they really are.
Right. Wow.
Or they're afraid. Do you ever think sometimes that they're afraid?
Of course. I had a guy tell me I scared him.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, you know, because like with all of that, because you're very like open and honest, like a lot of people, I hate to say it, are used to people just being fake. So when they come across a real person that like actually wants things out of life, than to spend like 5 minutes with you in whatever situation, like it's scary to them, because like they don't know. It's like frightening. They don't know how to handle that or what to do with it.
Right. It's too much work.
We need to work on that.
It's too much work to be anything other than myself. So I had to learn at a very young age that this is what you're going to get. You don't like it, that's your problem. But I'm not about to make any apologies for who I am. I'm going to be authentic, and I want you to help me and watch me and show me, you know, ways to improve on my flaws, to improve on my errors. But I'm trying to be the best version of myself always. And I know that I fall short in some areas, and I'm willing to get constructive criticism about that. and to even be adamant to say, this is who I am and I'm working on that. Not saying this is who I am, so you better just get over it. No, this is who I am. Allow me to grow in the maturity of who I am as a person and develop new things in my character, so I won't always be this flawed person in this area.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
I want you to find that guy. Like, I want you to find him.
Yes, you too, Candace. We want you to find him. And me too. I want to find him too.
Yeah.
Look, I'm like I said last week, LA, relationships is looking real in my life, and I'm okay with that at this point. As long as I can eat tacos, travel the world.
Well, I'm believing for something different. I'm believing that if I'm supposed to be with the right person, it will be very clear and confirmed by my Father. So I'm believing for
Hey,
that.
I'm here for that for you. I got a poem when you do.
Okay, awesome. I think, Boogie, it's that time, right?
Yes, it's that time. Like, I would like to first of all thank all you ladies for participating and everybody in the chat room as well. But before we go, I just want the people out there to know how to reach each individual that's in here. So we'll start off with Shannon. How can people reach you?
Well, I am the same name across all platforms: Twitter, IG, and Facebook. Shannon Ford, like the president, -Jefferson, like the president, and there's only one, so you'll find me. I am also a published author. I write poetry. All of my books, there are 5 of them, can be found on Amazon.com under the same name, Shannon Ford Jefferson. And then I'm on a podcast tomorrow night with Kente Ferguson, Mars and Venus, Men and Women Talk, 6 p.m. Pacific Central Time, and then Standard Time, and then 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On
wow, I want to be there. On where?
On this platform.
On YouTube.
I'll send you the link, honey. I'll send you the link.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
And,
Candace? How can people reach you if they wanted to? If you feel comfortable to give that information.
Well, you can reach me. I'm on Instagram. I'm Green-Eyed Lady 222. And basically, or you can just email me, which is, I'm at my personal email. Well, we have so many emails now these days that are connected to so many different things. I'm like,
right?
So many. So it's sidorukc@gmail.com. And yeah, or you can find me on Facebook under Candace Sidoruk.
You're on LinkedIn, right?
Oh, I'm on LinkedIn as well. Yes.
No, I'm only bringing up LinkedIn for you because I know that you are on the prospect for a new position. And if you want to just briefly say what would be ideal for you, because maybe somebody is listening that may help you.
Ideal position for me would be working in a community set, well, in a corporate social responsibility setting, pretty much.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think that's accurate.
Yeah.
Okay, Shakira?
Okay, so I'm not really one for like social media. I barely check my Facebook, like barely ever. Instagram, like I'd be more on Instagram. So I think my Instagram, you know what? Just email me, Quarry Raymona, QUARRIERAYMONA @gmail.com.
Amazing.
And us, well, you can find us on Instagram at the Elephant Room TV. So I hope we're not hooked on phonics. It's
It's as it's supposed to be spelled.
THEBLEPHANTROOM TV on Instagram and on Facebook as well.
And individually?
And individually. So my own is on Instagram at Mike, spelled M as in Mike, IC as in Charlie, _truth. T as in Tango, RUTH. And that's on Instagram. And for yourself, LA?
I'm at LA Wade 6 on Twitter. This is LA Wade on Instagram. And I go by the same LA Wade on Facebook. So this was a really great conversation. I'm really grateful to all of you who chimed in, to the beautiful women in the room, meaning the squares. Thank you to Kinte, who always holds us down with the engineering aspect and helping me and Boogie navigate through Get Vocal. Just Dre, because he is great, and all of the other people in the room that hold us down every week. We're so grateful. And the final one for this month is next Sunday, where we're going to do not a live town hall, but we're going to do kind of a town hall with all of you, where we will review social media stories from R. Kelly and Michael Jackson to other political figures in the media. We'll bring you some Canadian perspective, where we had an MP who has left Parliament because of an argument with the Prime Minister.
An indigenous woman, the first indigenous woman, I'd like to mention.
So there's some drama going on in Canadian politics, and so we'll dissect some of those things also, and it will be great to have you there. Thank you so much. And
with that, we wrap it up.
Thank you.
Feel free to stay your chat, but we out.
Okay. It was nice meeting all of you.
Nice meeting